Concept mapping and the postmodern self. Concept mapping helps students to construct meaning from content. It can be used in any subject area as a study tool or a planning tool. It helps them retain and internalize the content they have studied, allowing them to arrange elements of that content in a way that is more memorable and makes more sense to them as individuals. This is a mode of writing that fuses text and graphic elements. We see this if we look at examples in the style of early mind mapping proponents like Tony Buzan, who has been promoting mind mapping since the 1960s. Visually, using the words J. Bolter uses to describe what we see on modern computer screens, the concept map is a space where text and image interpenetrate to such a degree that the writer and reader can no longer always know where the pictorial space ends and the verbal space begins. I would like to draw a connection between concept mapping as a learning tool and Bolter's discussion of the differences between the Cartesian self and the postmodern self. These two ideas of self are analogous to two modes of writing, the printed text and the hypertext document, respectively. And I would like to suggest that concept mapping is primarily a tool for the postmodern self. Bolter identifies the Cartesian ego, the self that writes its own identity, with written text. This person can be understood as a writer who inscribes and therefore takes responsibility for his mental text. This is an approach to the self which has millennia of philosophical tradition behind it, although Bolter suggests that the Cogito lays the foundation for the age of printed text. Perhaps we can think of the self as a tree growing from the center, written in linear fashion, growing outward from the trunk. This is the Cartesian self. We think of the concept map as a similar process, but is it necessarily? If there is a post-structuralist self, it is built up from a network of semiotic reference, caught in a process of infinite semiosis, subject to inevitable meaning change, and this, according to Bolter, is the theoretical foundation for hypertext. I would draw a parallel here with the view of the self put forward in Constructivist Epistemologies. According to Fosnot, constructivism is a post-structuralist theory, one that construes learning as an interpretive, recursive, nonlinear building process by active learners interacting with their surround, the physical and social world. To me, this sounds like hypertextual thinking. Perhaps we can talk about the tree that grows from the branches inward, the self that grows from its input. This is the constructivist self. So what about concept mapping? As we've said, it helps students understand, remember, and assimilate knowledge. Do we expect students to build their understanding from the center outward, or do they build their understanding from the details inward? Even though we start with a central concept, the goal is to enhance that central idea by adding details. Really, the concept is built from the outside in, making the concept map a postmodern learning tool that fits well with constructivist postmodern thought.
Created using Powtoon.